In the middle of the night, a suburban home goes up in flames. Neighbours watched on as the fire took hold, unaware if anyone is still inside and unable to help.
Crews quickly entered the building with lines of hose and breathing apparatus and completed a search of the property. Fortunately, no one was in the property at the time and they managed to confine the fire to the rear of the building.
The blaze fuelled by the sheer number of belongings inside the home.
It took approximately 30 firefighters about 2 hours to get under control. There was a lot of contents inside the building which made it very hard for firefighters to manoeuvre around, and the fire kept reigniting.
It's understood the homeowner, a middle-aged woman, has lived in the property for around 30 years. Her house still stands, but she is now homeless. The owner has told NBN News that the shed where the fire started was filled with her late parents' belongings and is now understandably devastated that it's all been lost. It's not known what started the fire, but police are now investigating if foul play is to blame. Georgia Ma, NBN News. This is what Newcastle would have looked like 3 centuries ago. After slipping on a virtual reality headset, many went there today. In time for NAIDOC Week, Newcastle City Council, along with local Indigenous groups, took people on a guided tour of our history. An important story of the pre-settlement days is told using virtual reality technology. Luke Russell was one of the narrators.
It is all in the traditional language of the Warramai and Wabakal people. And we take you to the 8 different sites and just a brief bit of dialogue and a brief bit of story.
My hope is that it'll help a lot of Novocastrians to really develop a passion and a bit of an ownership for their history, not just European history, but the history that was here for thousands of years before.
Creator Tim Davidson wants this to replace textbooks.
It's that experiential learning. Virtual reality does give you that feeling of time travel and experience that you can't get any other way.
NAIDOC celebration started earlier in the day with the raising of the Aboriginal flag at Civic Park.
Acknowledging that it's 41 years since the Aboriginal flag was first flown over City Hall, and we were the first City Hall or civic building in Australia to fly the Aboriginal flag.
Many marched to Foreshore Park where 5,000 people gathered to honour this year's theme, Because of Her, We Can. Georgia Ma, NBN News.
It was first trialled in Newcastle. Now Lake Macquarie has gone on the grid.
It's really exciting for Lake Macquarie. It's going to be a game changer.
Over the next few weeks, a system of sensors and tracking devices will be fitted at various locations to collect and share data to make the city more livable. A sensor installed in a parking lot, for example, could help to solve parking woes, letting drivers know when a spot opens up in real time.
Civic solutions to age-old problems, making sure bins are emptied and knowing when lights should turn on, monitoring water.
While a dozen businesses and startups have signed on to keep tabs on their customer base, the system is also designed for personal use.
If you had a farm in Lake Macquarie, you'd be able to use it to find out where your stock are, if there's a problem with your fence, if there's something wrong with your boat.
And where previously smart technology has been used to monitor a single street or building, a network of this size is an Australian first.
Taking it to a 650 square kilometre area, the size equivalent to 23 local government areas in Sydney, this is the first time.
Jacinta Lee, NBN News. An Australian town under attack. Survivors forced to fend for themselves.
It's a sort of big, epic, end-of-the-world alien invasion movie, but from Australian perspective.
This is the $6 million independent sci-fi film Occupation, which opens in theatres this Thursday.
There's a lot of explosions. I can't go into too much detail, as you can understand, but yeah, does that help?
Yes. And it could bring a bit of Hollywood to The Hunter. With its sequel already given the green light, filmmakers have been scouting locations in and around Newcastle. Today, taking a tour of the abandoned coal-fired power station at Wangi.
The power station, like it's really old, and as you can see, it's real decrepit.
So it's horrible what's happened to it with the graffiti and the vandalism, but for me, visually, it's amazing.
For director Luke Spark, shooting the sequel here would be something special.
I grew up in Newcastle. I was at Lake Macquarie here, actually. And of course, it always has a really special place in my heart, the whole Hunter region. And I've been dying to get a film made down here. I've been trying to make a few in the past.
If the site is chosen, producers say they'll be looking to cast local extras in the production.
We will have that all advertised on our Facebook page, also on our website.
Filming is slated to begin in August. Jacinta Lee, NBN News.
Just about to head down to Sydney. Girlfriend Zoe's going to drive me down. Obviously I can't drive, so a bit nervous for the surgery. I've never had surgery before. Everyone says that you don't remember much, so can't wait to get under the knife and get out of there.
The whole team will get a good lift out of it. And, we have been in a little bit of a flatter sort of period. We're coming off a couple of losses now, so that little lift will be good for the confidence of the whole group.
He won the Pro City title on the Thames on Saturday and also made a sprint final for the first time. Overnight, Michael Booth made the 11-kilometre event his own. The Australian and Hawaii's Connor Baxter made an early break, but it wasn't long before Booth tried to go solo. By the time he entered his fourth and final lap, he'd established a 40-metre gap to his nearest rival and was able to cruise across the line.
It was flat and hot out there, and there was a little bit of bump like early on, and I sort of took that opportunity and Connor locked right on me, and I sort of played the race into his hands, but in a way I had to work on my strengths and just really focus on paddling.
Still overseas, and another dramatic appearance for Lake Macquarie's Tom Edwards in the World Supersport 300 Series. He was one of 15 riders who were penalised for heading onto the track for practice before the session had formally started. Forced to start from the 10th row, he soon made progress until succumbing to a familiar scenario. Having crashed out of all 4 previous rounds, this time Edwards was able to re-enter the race, finishing in 26th.
If and when there is a need to make any changes to the expansion up there to meet community concerns, we'll do that. At the moment, I'm not convinced that what we've got provided in the design is inadequate.
It takes more than a drought to knock the spirit out of the bush. Our region's farmers in dire straits, still managing to conjure up a laugh. But behind the brave front is frustration.
It's just gone on too long around up under, and it's been on for a long time.
In fact, long enough for Rural Aid to deliver its 5,000th bale, arriving today with temporary relief.
We can feed some cattle, we can plan ahead a little bit.
But these bales of hope are getting harder to come by.
The challenge is hay supplies are becoming harder to find, and we're just continuing to receive more and more requests for assistance.
And while Scone looks green, recent rainfall has brought nothing more than pick.
Bits of rain make the place look like it's nice and green, but really there's not a great deal of substance to the paddocks. And so we're finding that farmers who we've already delivered hay to over the last 4 or 5 months are now coming back to us saying, can we get some more?
It's not just feed in short supply. Rural Aid has launched a counselling program to keep up with demand and keep rural communities together.
Well, one of the problems the farmers have is they suffer in silence, and that's the big worry. People need someone to talk to, they need to be heard.
And they hope governments are listening as the big dry tightens its grip. Assistance now no longer an option. For more information, visit Rural Aid's website. Stephen Mount, NBN News.
A national message of appreciation echoed through Toronto's Main Street. Shoulder to shoulder, a community of all ages united as part of NAIDOC celebrations.
Nobody is left out. Everyone is treated equal, and that is the way it should be.
Standing on one of the nation's first Aboriginal missions, the West Lakes community embraced their special day. The foreshore brought to life with art and song. This year's focus was on recognising the region's strong Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander women. Auntie Zelma, today one of many, thanked for paving the way for future generations.
It's not just about women who have worked in the community, it's our women who have overcome racism and judgment of just being an Aboriginal woman.
Today marking the start of Lake Macquarie's week-long NAIDOC program.
I've grown up in this community, so I've watched a lot of women just overcome hardship in their life, and they're just strong leaders, and they're not necessarily what we consider leaders, but certainly strong in my eyes and what they've overcome.
Talia Sarv, NBN News.
Putting yourself into a dangerous situation like we saw yesterday puts other people at danger, like the guys that put themselves at risk to rescue this guy or to assist him in that heavy situation.
A training drill today, a scenario that could become all too real tomorrow. One last practice run for the Minister, the final formality before a career in our state's prison system. Our latest batch of corrective service officers come from all walks of life, each with their own story and reasons, like Carl Butterdeen, the former shearer from Inverell.
Just getting old and getting too hard on the body, and yeah, just like I said, just want to be a good role model and make a difference to the community.
And Chanel Van Rooyen, a criminology graduate from 2 hours west of Moree, in her final year of law school.
At the end of the day, I sort of do want to go into becoming a prosecutor, but like a lot of trainers here have told me, being a correctional officer doesn't just stop there.
While for Purdy Mitford Burgess, it's about contributing to society.
This was a career change
that where I could get more actively involved. So be on the ground and keeping a community safe. So it was sort of the turning point at 36.
So we've got hairdressers, coppers, we've got tradies, which says to me that corrections is not only being seen as an employer of choice, but it says to me that the corrections system is reflecting the broader Australian community, and that's healthy.
So is the number of women choosing this career path, undeterred by the prospect of facing some of society's worst.
It boosted my confidence, showed me that I actually had the tenacity to actually do the training. That was really good for me.
As the class of 2018 embarks on their new journeys as corrective services personnel, the issue of an increasing casualised prison workforce remains. Of the 27 graduates, just 2 will become permanent employees. The fix, according to the Public Service Association, the stroke of a minister's pen.
Well, for me it is, but for the system it's not, because they have to find permanent billets for them. They've got to make sure that the jobs that are created are not just created to fill employment, that they're created to make sure that a jail is serviced and well serviced.
With an overpopulated prison system, that shouldn't be a difficult task. Stephen Mount, NBN News.
I thought I had a chance of winning the ball. Obviously turned out differently, and yeah, that's the point I'm trying to get across tonight. Hopefully people take a breath, take a step back and treat it for what it is, which was unfortunate. And as I said, I apologise to Lawrence.
It's not about getting Roy off completely. It's nothing about that. It's about Roy getting the suspension that's warranted for the incident.
He's the big-name signing charged with leading the resurrection of the Knights. But it's not just the fans who are looking forward to the return of Mitchell Pearce.
He's definitely our on-field leader. He leads the boys around the park, and he comes up with the right plays at the right time. So he's our captain, and we're really looking forward to having his presence out on the field.
The coach and his players are confident they won't sit back and expect the halfback to win the clash with the Eels on his own.
We've built a pretty good foundation while he's been gone. We've been pretty competitive, but just to add those final touches with the experience that he has will be good for the team.
Nathan Brown admits Pearce's absence has taught the Knights some valuable lessons.
From a club point of view, we certainly need to look at our recruitment and look at certain aspects of our game so that if we do lose Mitchell again, we cope a lot better, because it certainly did affect us.
His return allows the Knights to build on combinations with key players before the end of the season, in particular Kalen Ponga and Connor Watson. Ponga could return from a hamstring injury as soon as next round, while the coach says Watson and Pearce need time to prove themselves at 6 and 7, laying to rest speculation Watson is being shopped around.
He sort of plays anywhere, so we've sort of been really reluctant to move him. Whilst he played a little bit of hooker this year, he's played most of his games at 6, and he's certainly a player that we feel's got a good long-term future with us.
In more positive news for Newcastle, Daniel Saifidi is also back, returning from an injury he suffered during his best performance against Parramatta in round 13.
I'd like to think Daniel can come back and take off where he left off, and he certainly brings some nice added size to our pack, and he also obviously can play some big minutes as well.
Day 1 of the New South Wales Junior Championships, and the best young golfers from Australia's eastern states were on show at the Charlestown and Belmont courses. Fresh from her win at the Greg Chalmers Junior Masters on the Central Coast, Sydney's June Song was an early favourite to defend her state title. A birdie on 15 helped her to a first round 78 and a tie for 6th with the likes of High Park from Queensland. One of Song's playing partners, Isabel Taylor, had this for eagle on 15. She tapped in for birdie, eventually finishing one shot behind the reigning champion. But at the end of the opening day, every girl is chasing Monica Johnson. The Sydney sider went agonisingly close to eagle on this par 5, but still finished with birdies on 15, 17 and 18 to card an impressive round 1 score of 3 under. A host of young Hunter players are also in the field, including 13-year-old Bridge Ingray and 12-year-old Harry Atkinson from Curry, who received a special invitation to play at the tournament. The event continues tomorrow with the girls and younger boys playing at Belmont, while the older boys will swap and play at Charlestown.
It was a simple act of kindness which cost one man his life and could see another jailed. Ivan Johnson-Gill today admitted to hitting and killing 54-year-old Giovanni Varignolo while behind the wheel of his Holden Statesman. The 45-year-old braked harshly and swerved, but collided with Mr. Varignolo on Railway Road, but then accelerated, causing the vehicle to run over the deceased. As Mr. Varignolo lay dying on the road, Johnson-Gill drove the car to his house, then continued drinking. When police arrived, Johnson-Gill came out and told them, "I was the driver, you don't have to do fingerprints or DNA the car anymore." When questioned by officers, Johnson-Gill told them he had been driving too fast and was in a rush to get home and start drinking. Prior to the collision, Johnson-Gill consumed 2 cans of bourbon, a beer and also smoked cannabis, then drank another 1-litre bottle of self-mixed bourbon and 3 ciders immediately after. When asked why he didn't stop and help Mr. Varignolo immediately after hitting him, he said he simply panicked. Johnson-Gill said he didn't call 000 because he had no credit, and when asked why he didn't use his partner's phone, he said, "Because I knew she'd ask questions." Johnson-Gill will front Newcastle District Court later this month, where a sentence date will be set. Tyson Cottrell, NBN News.
This bus stop here at Rutherford's, where Small is one of 2 bus drivers now refuse to service after a spate of dangerous incidents.
There's rock throwing attacks at the buses while they're moving. There's rock throwing at the drivers, young kids riding on the moving buses, and worse still, trying to activate a safety switch which opens the doors and locks the brakes of a moving bus.
The Transport Union says drivers are fearing for their lives and the safety of others, with kids from as young as 10 joining in on the violent acts. While the bus company has volunteered to put on extra private security from 2 p.m. to 11 p.m. each weekday, there's urgent calls for the state government to step in.
These situations are getting worse, not better. We need training for drivers to be able to deal with violent offenders and more security and more penalties.
Every person in this state should turn up to work in a safe environment. These drivers aren't. As a result, there are now interim measures in place until the law catches up with the individuals concerned.
In the meantime, the union says drivers are working to ensure the Rutherford route bans cause the least amount of disruption for commuters.
In making its determination to support the closure of the road, Council considered a whole range of factors and on balance decided and determined that the closure of the road was appropriate.
While quiet today, next Saturday the Knights' home ground will be buzzing. The side faces the Titans, but our local boys will be out to achieve more than victory.
Domestic violence isn't a normal thing and it's something that, needs to be highlighted in our society.
Charity Got Your Back Sister is enlisting the community to be part of its movement against domestic and family violence. It's encouraging hundreds of people to take to the field at half-time in a show of support for those experiencing violence, while at the same time condemning the scourge on our society.
We need to do something about it, and we need to do that in a very, very public way, because at the end of the day, we want it to stop.
It's the initiative's second year and it's being backed right across the Hunter.
Anything that raises awareness of domestic violence is a good thing. Certainly as clubs, we have a large membership across the region, and anything we can do to leverage off that to raise awareness is important.
If you'd like to take part, head to the Got Your Back Sister Facebook page.
All you need to do is make a $20 donation to Got Your Back Sister. That will get you the t-shirt to wear and come and join us on the field and just get your ticket to the game.
Emma Murphy, NBN News.
They're the outright leaders in the WPL this season, but the Panthers will be missing W League stars Cassidy Davis and Jenna Kingsley for this weekend's State Cup.
Fielding a fairly young team with a lot of under-20s coming into the mix, but all the girls are really excited to play.
The defending champions had one hand on the trophy today, but are they a chance of claiming back-to-back titles?
Winning the first State Cup title last year was really exciting, especially from coming off the grand final loss in the Premier League, but we're going to try our best.
University's Annalise Rosnell also held the silverware. She's hoping her side can advance from a tough group.
There's a team from Coffs Harbour that we get to play in our group stage, so I feel like it'll be pretty hard. People have been talking about them a bit, so we're looking forward to that as well as playing the WPL teams.
Whatever happens, the girls know the tournament is a great way to showcase emerging talent from a range of clubs.
Girls get to see sort of where they can go from our club if they want to take that extra step, and just see that they can do it when they're playing teams like this and they can hold their own.
The first game kicks off at 6:30 at Spears Point on Friday night, with the final to be held at 4 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. Starting the day in second, Picken quickly made his move, registering 3 birdies and an eagle on his opening 6 holes. He turned the corner with the tournament lead, then gave himself more breathing space with shots like this on the 13th. Jai tapped in the putt for birdie on his way to a second round 68. One of his playing partners, Lewis Hoth from Queensland, shot a 72 to sit in a tie for 4th. Overnight leader Louis Dobbelaar started well with 2 early birdies, but 4 straight bogeys left him with plenty of work to do on the back 9. He finished with a 73 and now sits in outright 3rd. Queenslanders dominate the top spots, but the Hunter will still have a handful of representatives during the final 2 rounds. Joshua Robards from the Newcastle club shot a 74 to grab a tie for 22nd, while Nelson Bay's Harry Clear produced this on his second last hole to set up a birdie, ensuring he'd make the cut by 1 stroke. Branxton's Corey Lamb shot a 75 today to make the cut by just 2. The girls' division and the top players from the boys' field will now finish the tournament at the Charlestown course. One by one, they were taken into custody. 10 people in total, all nabbed by officers in November last year during raids at 12 Hunter properties. Among them, Dean Anthony Shoesmith, Tony Michelle Rigby and Chad St Clair, who each today pleaded guilty to various drug supply charges. Court documents showed Shoesmith was the target of a covert police operation, with one officer posing as a buyer by the name of Jack. Between August and October last year, 41-year-old Shoesmith supplied a total of 52.35 grams of ice on 13 different occasions to both the undercover officer and to Rigby. In one deal, Shoesmith supplied 28 grams of ice to the officer, set up through a series of text messages between he and fellow dealer Rigby, which read, "Dean said he's good for you and him to meet at Bellbird Pub in 20 minutes, but it's $5,500, to which Jack replied, "No worries." Shoesmith, Rigby and St Clair are all facing a raft of different drug charges, and just like their arrest, all 3 will be sentenced together. That will take place in Newcastle District Court in November. Tyson Cottrell, NBN News.
A torrent of water rushing down the driveway of a suburban home. Residents on Johnstone Street in Cardiff were woken just after 4 a.m. by the sound of water pounding against their houses.
And then I got up and I went out to come outside and the water was pouring down here, going for the yard and all that.
Today, the destruction left was far-reaching. 16 properties suffering water damage. The cause easy to see, a break in the main blowing a huge hole through the asphalt. Water then raced down the hill into nearby streets, taking out brick retaining walls before flooding the front room of this home, while four-legged friends like 14-year-old Oscar licked their wounds.
He never leaves. He had little black spots over him and all that, so that's no problem.
Several streets away, 7 apartments at Oak Tree Retirement Village were damaged. The mess left behind an indication of just how much water escaped. The sudden torrent of water came as a shock to residents, who then banded together to salvage anything they could. However, it did result in one woman slipping and injuring herself. She was taken to hospital for treatment. Hunter Waters blaming its ageing infrastructure.
It's a very large piece that's come out of the main at a join. So with older mains, these kind of things do happen from time to time.
Emma Murphy, NBN News.
Local traders getting on with business, leaning on each other for a way forward.
There's no silver bullets there, but we're hoping that all of it will, come together to make somewhat of a difference to businesses.
As revenues drop by as much as 50%, support workshops, the latest effort to help keep doors open, as Newcastle now works with all tiers of government for assistance.
We're not talking loads of money, but it will help those small businesses that are living, literally week to week.
And so does peer support. Estebar owner Beck Bowie developed a social media campaign, Hello Newey East, the result of traders with nowhere else to turn.
We couldn't see what other opportunity there was, so we created this social media program for ourselves to help those people.
But in business, cash is king.
Sure, the city's got to change and evolve and develop, yes, but it doesn't have to be at the cost of the businesses that have already invested so much of their time and livelihood in this area.
Which is why they're asking, how did it get to this? Issues they say wouldn't exist with transparency and communication.
How can you spend $650 million without having a concept plan that you can share with the people that you're building it for? That's just beyond me.
Despite the frustration, the message remains one of resilience.
People will survive, they will struggle through, but it will be different and there will be attrition.
Stephen Mount, NBN News.
We thought that the city, as it grew, needed to be complemented with quality childcare. Our idea was to provide something that would reflect that growth and the excitement that was happening.
Looks can be deceiving, not that there's anything wrong with her from a distance, but curiosity got the better of us. They're called sports motor yachts, the newest breed of luxury afloat. A dance for the cameras and time to birth, unfazed by a tight squeeze. But there's still some things money can't buy. That's where old news hacks come in handy. It's a Maritimo X60. 20 metres of Australian-made indulgence, currently making her way down the coast on exhibition. They've thought of everything, from the chef's kitchen to private staterooms, limited only by imagination.
A cabin, a tender garage or a beach club option. So it can be a 2-cabin or 4-cabin boat. It's really up to the customer.
And for the lads, almost 2,000 horses pushing her along.
Coming down the coast, but from Port Stephens we were doing about 30 knots cruising, top speed of about 35, so it really gets along.
But getting along is thirsty work, 260 litres an hour at cruise. But if you're in the market, that's the last thing on your mind, as the luxury boat industry continues its rapid expansion.
We've had people of older ages and as well as younger couples looking at this sort of boat, so it's really broadened our market for us.
With a price tag of between 2 to 3 million, it's one of those items only the select few will ever cross off their bucket list. So for the rest of us, it's back to work to top up that super. Stephen Mount, NBN News.
He's put in the hard yards in the gym and at training. Now Mitchell Pearce is ready to return from injury. The skipper says his side hasn't given up on scraping into the finals, but he's not predicting miracles in his first game back.
I think as a halfback, when you've been out, there's a tendency to sometimes feel like you have to come up and do too much. But I'm a bit older now, and I'd like to think that I know what a solid game is for me. And my job for the team, more than anything, is to bring a good kicking game in some direction.
Pearce is still determined to give something back to the Knights and the fans.
Coming onto your club and not playing, you feel like you let everyone down. Your job's you get brought here and paid to play. So it's been disappointing not playing, but I get an opportunity the next 8 weeks to finish the year strong.
The 29-year-old hasn't let his time on the sideline go to waste.
It's good to step back sometimes, and especially being at a new club, watch things from a different perspective. So hopefully that results in some good form.
He's even helped Nathan Brown in the coach's box.
Any future in coaching for you?
Oh, I don't know. I want to keep my hair. I don't want to look like Nathan there.
With Slade Griffin out for the season, Danny Levi will make a rare appearance in the starting side, keen to play 80 minutes at hooker.
I feel like I've got a point to prove, and I'm going to do my best out there. So, yeah, I want to make sure I hold that jersey.
He's carrying the hopes of the hunter, but Jai Picken is taking it all in his stride. While others around him struggled on moving day, the Charlestown local showed plenty of composure on his home course. His round of 2 under included 4 birdies and 2 bogeys as he moved to 9 under for the tournament and a 7-shot lead. Round 1 leader Louis Dobbelaar from Queensland had an up and down day. His card included 2 birdies, 4 bogeys and a double bogey as he slipped to 3rd spot in the tournament. Things were even worse for Sydney's Jeffrey Guan. He shot an 8 over 80 on day 3 and is now in a tie for 5th. In the women's division, fellow Sydney sider Monica Johnson leads by 2 strokes but looked shaky during her 3rd round. In contrast, Queenslander Cassie Porter continued the form she found at the Belmont course yesterday. Her round of 2 under moves her into 2nd spot and gives her plenty of momentum heading into the final day. Defending champion June Song will need something special to win back-to-back titles. She's 9 shots off the pace after registering a 79 this afternoon.
So within the Newcastle Museum, we have a number of artefacts and collections that are part of the Newcastle Aboriginal community. So we've released this Mullumbimba map so that people can walk through the museum and experience the culture that we have on show here.
It's work aimed at revitalising Newcastle, but some businesses argue it's destroying them.
It survived world wars, the Depression, the earthquake, but we're struggling to survive the rejuvenation of Newcastle.
Newcastle Diggers Club opened in 1917. Up until the closure of Newcastle Railway Station, it was making an annual profit of up to $150,000.
They closed the railway station, which was in Boxing Day. Our profits halved, and we've never shown a profit since. And then running until now, at the end of June this year for our financial year, we've lost over $200,000.
The club is now looking to join a Sydney class action fighting for light rail compensation from the state government. Help that's continually been denied, much to the disbelief of Newcastle MP Tim Crackenthorpe. He's uncovered documents he claims show Transport for New South Wales has spent more than $1.2 million on promotional material for the Urban Transformation and Transport program.
They have their priorities wrong. This government should be helping small businesses through rent relief, not spending $100,000 on trying to get likes for social media.
Parliamentary Secretary for the Hunter, Scott McDonald, said the government would not apologise for informing the community of activity in the city or encouraging people to visit and support local businesses, and that the claims from Mr Crackenthorpe are proof he has no idea about what it takes to manage a major revitalisation project. Emma Murphy, NBN News.
It's a never take no for an answer attitude that's brought Graham Boyd success in the past. But as the veteran promoter prepares for this weekend's Motocross Championships, back on Maitland Road, his business has closed for the last time.
Just can't continue to throw money into something with no future in it.
A lone sign on the fence, the only hint administrators have moved in to wind up decades of trade. Unconfirmed reports suggesting creditors are owed around $150,000.
Once we have an auction and sell off all the rest of the bikes at work, that'll be covered.
And that includes staff entitlements. Former colleagues who Mr Boyd says have been the most understanding of all.
They all brought me chocolates and yeah, they felt sorry for me.
Whether it's the entrepreneurial spirit or sheer determination, Graham Boyd has wasted no time turning to his other passion, promoting motorsport. The Australian Motocross Championships return to the Hunter, the result of a relentless drive from one of Two Wheels' most recognised identities.
The championship hasn't been here for years and it wasn't looking like it's coming back. I stuck my hand up and made sure that I brought it back to Newcastle.
Where that takes the veteran promoter in the future remains to be seen. Stephen Mount, NBN News.
Trent Haynes had big dreams for his grocer store on Beaumont Street. When he opened in May last year, initially things were tough. But business picked up until the Hamilton interchange closed and Keola's Downer changed its bus timetable across Newcastle.
They used to have to catch one bus and now some of them have to catch 3 buses or 2 buses to get here.
Mr Haynes says he just hasn't got enough business to stay afloat. So today his dream came to an end.
Got 4 kids and a wife, the mortgage to pay off, and it just comes down to, in the end, you've got to decide, which one do you want to lose, house or in business. They have to cut your losses and go.
The Hamilton Business Chamber says it wants to see a bus service down Beaumont Street.
They still haven't listened to us, and so there's no buses going to be coming back down, so we're very disappointed with Keola's Downer.
A spokesperson for the transport company said while it's always unfortunate to hear of a small business closing, the owner has previously listed several factors for closing his doors, and that the facts simply don't support the argument that changes to the Newcastle transport network have caused the business to fail. Emma Murphy, NBN News.
It's opening night for a bold adventure in film. Novocastrian actor Zach Garrett on the red carpet for the premiere of Occupation, an independently financed and produced sci-fi blockbuster.
In Australia, it is difficult to, of course, to get a film up, let alone 2. But the fact we were greenlit so quickly, again, is a testament to the work and talent of the people around us.
And no one's as proud as Grandma.
To see him on the big screen after all the years that I've looked after him and tutored him through and one thing and another, and yeah, I'm extremely proud. I'm a very proud old grandmother.
With a $6 million budget, it's the first time an Australian production has taken on Hollywood heavyweights in a genre made famous by War of the Worlds, The Day the Earth Stood Still. And the old favourite, Earth versus the Flying Saucers. Delving into the world of sci-fi is a high-stakes game. There's no more passionate audience, so rather than risk getting the plot wrong, we took the safe option.
This is a big action set piece about aliens invading the world, but it's told from the point of view of 10 rather flawed people in a dying small town. So all of their problems, which seem rather significant, are then completely washed away when the bad guys invade and they've all got to get together and form a bond to fight back.
Got that? Occupation opens in 100 cinemas across the US next week, and a sequel is already in the pipeline. Stephen Mount, NBN News.
Well, Ernie will, will regather the troops. We'll obviously have a couple of the older boys that didn't travel with us to China that will rejoin the group. So we'll pretty much have the basis of the squad that we'll see for the A-League season. We're sort of working with a core group of about 16. Dimi Petrados and Ronnie Vargas will join us in Spain. So we're nearly at our number when those two return, and obviously we'll look to sign a few of the young ones to traineeships who will join the squad as well. So it's a good time for the club.
Many families have a trampoline in their backyard, but this is certainly not playtime. Jessica Pickering started trampolining 10 years ago, right here in this gym in Glendale.
For my 7th birthday I got a trampoline, and my mum was worried I was going to break my neck, so she took me in here and I learnt gymnastics, and that's where I met one of my training partners, Ty, and he brought me over to East Lakes and I've been there ever since.
That journey has led her to her biggest accomplishment yet. The 17-year-old has been selected to represent Australia at the Youth Olympics in Buenos Aires.
We found out that I was eligible a couple of years ago, and we've been working towards that goal ever since.
A goal she has worked tirelessly to achieve, training 6 days a week, sometimes double sessions, both on the trampoline and in the gym.
There's a fair bit of specific trampoline training that goes into it, but there are also strength and conditioning programs that go along with that as well. A lot of the time we talk about what it takes and we say about 80% mental toughness, but that's really underestimating the physical nature of it.
The ultimate goal is the Olympics, but for now Jessica has her sights on Argentina in October.
I would really love to make finals, but ultimately podium would be amazing.
We're looking at the best in the country. This is basically, you can see the transporters around us. This is the V8 supercars of dirt bikes, if you like. 2015 was the last time we were here, and it's a brand new venue, and the championship fight's on this weekend.